At 7 minutes past midnight, every clock in the shop stopped. The tall clock beside the door became silent. The little travel clock on the shelf stopped between two soft clicks. 20 pendulums hung without moving, as still as raindrops in a photograph. Even the clock in the church tower across the square showed the same time. 12:07. Only one sound remained. Tick, tick, tick. Iris Vale stood in the middle of the dark shop and looked down at the silver pocket watch in her hand. It had belonged to her grandfather Elias. Its small second hand continued around the face as if nothing unusual had happened. Then a door at the back of the shop opened by itself. Iris had tried that door 3 times during the day. It was sealed with paint and old wood. Her grandfather had told everyone that there was only a narrow wall behind it. But now cool silver light entered through the opening. Beyond the door, where no courtyard should have been, pale flowers moved beneath a full moon. Somewhere inside the garden, a clock began to ring. It rang only once. Iris should have stepped back. Instead, she closed her fingers around the pocket watch and whispered the words her grandfather had often said when she was a child. "Take your time." Then she walked through the door. 3 days earlier, Iris had arrived in Bellweather on the afternoon train. The town looked smaller than she remembered. Rain shone on the stone square. A bakery window gave off warm light, and bicycles rested against the low iron fence near the church. At the center of the square stood the old clock tower. Its 4 faces could be seen from every road into town. When Iris was young, the bell had sounded each hour. People used it to open shops, meet friends, and know when supper should begin. Now the tower clock was slow by 11 minutes. Iris noticed because she always noticed clocks. She repaired small machines for a museum in the city. She could hear a weak spring from across a quiet room. She could tell when a wheel was too dry or a screw was not sitting straight. Time to Iris was something made of careful parts. Her grandfather had taught her that. Elias Vale had been Bellweather's clockmaker for more than 50 years. He had repaired watches, kitchen clocks, music boxes, and the great tower clock. He had also been a difficult man to understand. He could spend 2 hours listening to a clock before touching it. When customers asked when their repair would be ready, he always smiled and said, "It can wait until it is right." Iris had loved the shop as a child. She loved the smell of wood, oil, and metal. She loved the tiny drawers filled with springs. But after her mother died, Iris left Bellweather and rarely returned. Elias wrote short letters. Iris sent cards at winter. Neither of them said the important things. Then a message came from the town lawyer. Elias had died peacefully in his chair beside the workbench. He had left the shop to Iris. She came to close it. That was the plan. Sell the building. Pack the best tools. Return to the city before old memories became too heavy. On her first afternoon, Iris unlocked the blue front door. The shop was exactly as she remembered and completely different. Dust lay on the glass counter. Clocks covered every wall. Some were round and simple. Others stood inside carved wooden cases. A small moon clock showed a silver circle moving across a dark blue sky. None of them showed the correct time. One was 5 minutes slow. Another was almost an hour fast. The tall clock beside the door had stopped at 12:07. Iris found this strange. Elias had never allowed 2 clocks in his shop to disagree. On the workbench lay a folded cloth. Beneath it was the silver pocket watch. There was no note. There was only a tiny brass key and a dry white flower pressed between 2 pieces of glass. The lawyer, Mr. Rowan, arrived before sunset. He was a small man with a careful gray beard. He brought papers and a ring of keys. "Your grandfather was ready," he said. "He arranged everything last winter." "Did he say why the clocks are wrong?" Iris asked. Mr. Rowan looked around the shop. Elias said they were keeping different promises. I did not ask what that meant. Iris almost laughed, but Mr. Rowan was serious. "He also asked me to tell you one sentence," he continued. He said, "There is still time." Iris looked at the pocket watch. "Time for what?" He did not say. After the lawyer left, Iris opened windows and began to clean. Work was easier than feeling. She placed damaged clocks on one table and working clocks on another. She made lists in her head. She told herself that every object would soon be packed. At the back of the shop, she found the painted door. Its handle was shaped like a crescent moon. The keyhole was much smaller than the brass key on the workbench. When Iris pulled the handle, nothing moved. Mrs. Lark from the bakery brought soup that evening. She had known Iris since childhood and still wore her silver hair in a loose braid. "Your grandfather kept strange hours near the end," Mrs. Lark said. "Some nights I saw light behind the shop. Blue light like moonlight. There is only a wall behind the shop." "That is what Elias said." Mrs. Lark placed the soup near the stove. Before leaving, she touched the tall clock. "This one stopped the night my daughter was born," she said. Iris checked the hands. 12:07. "Your daughter was born at midnight?" "No. She was born in the afternoon. But that night I came here because I was afraid. The doctor had told me the birth might be difficult. Elias gave me tea and made this clock stop for 1 minute." "He made it stop?" Mrs. Lark smiled at the old memory. "He said fear did not deserve every minute I had. Then the clock began again. I went home. My daughter arrived safely the next day." Iris wanted a clearer explanation, but Mrs. Lark only said good night. The rain continued. Iris slept in the small room above the shop. At 12:07, she woke because the building had become silent. That was when she found the pocket watch ticking and the impossible door open. The garden beyond the door was larger than the whole building. A stone wall surrounded it, but the wall seemed far away. Silver blue flowers grew along curved paths. Their petals opened toward the moon. Small brass clocks rested among the leaves. Some were no bigger than coins. Others stood on thin poles like quiet lanterns. There were no numbers or words. Only moving hands, shining metal, and soft light. Iris stepped onto the moss path. The door remained open behind her. The air smelled of mint, rain, and warm stone. It was not cold. A fountain stood at the center, though no water moved in it. Instead, hundreds of tiny clock wheels turned beneath its clear surface. One flower beside the path slowly opened. Inside it was a small glass clock. Its hands pointed to 4:15. Iris touched one pale petal. The garden changed. For one moment she was standing inside Mrs. Lark's bakery many years earlier. A younger Mrs. Lark held a baby near the window. Elias stood beside her, laughing. The tower bell sounded 4 times, then once more. The moment vanished. Iris pulled back her hand. The flower closed. "What are you keeping?" a voice asked. Iris turned quickly. No one was there. The voice had sounded like Elias, but softer, as if it had traveled through leaves. She walked deeper into the garden. Another flower held a clock at 6:30. When she touched it, she saw a boy returning a lost dog to an old woman. A third showed a summer evening when the whole town carried chairs into the square to listen to music. These were not dreams. They felt like memories, but they were not Iris's memories. At the end of one path stood a round clock with no hands. Beneath it grew a single closed white flower. Unlike the others, it was dry at the edges. The silver pocket watch grew warm in Iris's hand. The handless clock opened like a small door. Inside was a photograph of Iris, her mother Anna, and Elias in the shop garden when Iris was 6. But there had never been a shop garden. Iris remembered the day. They had eaten pears beside the river. On the back of the photograph was a drawing of a moonflower. Iris could not read any words because there were none. Still, she knew the photograph was a message. The dry flower moved. For a breath, Iris heard her mother's voice. "1 minute is enough," Anna said. Then every small clock in the garden began ticking at once. Iris hurried back to the door. The moment she entered the shop, all its clocks started again. Their different times made a confused music of bells and clicks. The garden door closed. Paint covered its edges. It looked sealed once more. The pocket watch had stopped at 12:08. Only 1 minute had passed. The next morning, Iris went to the clock tower. Thomas Reed, the town caretaker, was sweeping rainwater from the entrance. He was about Iris's age, with a calm face and a dark green scarf. They had attended school together, though Thomas had been 2 years ahead. "I heard you came back," he said. "I was going to visit the shop. The tower is 11 minutes slow." Thomas smiled. "Good morning to you too. When did it begin losing time?" "Last winter. Your grandfather came every week, but he would not repair it. He was responsible for it. He said the tower was not broken. He said Bellweather was moving too quickly. Iris looked up the spiral stairs. Clocks do not become slow because a town is busy. That sounds like something you should tell a clockmaker. I am a clockmaker. Thomas gave her the tower key. The mechanism filled the upper room. Great iron wheels turned behind a safety rail. The main pendulum moved from side to side with a deep, patient sound. Iris inspected the gears. Nothing was damaged. Elias had changed the length of the pendulum. He had made the tower run slow on purpose. Near the base, Iris found a narrow wooden box. Inside were 12 small glass circles, each holding a pressed moonflower petal. One circle was empty. Thomas watched her face. Is that bad? I do not know. Elias said you would know what to do. Everyone keeps saying that. Thomas leaned against the wall. Then perhaps he was wrong. Dead people can be wrong. The simple sentence helped more than Iris expected. She adjusted nothing. She carried the wooden box back to the shop. All day, customers came to share stories about Elias. A fisherman said Elias had stopped a kitchen clock during a storm so his wife could rest. A teacher said Elias once gave her 5 quiet minutes before an important meeting. A young father brought a toy clock that had belonged to his son. Elias had repaired it without charging money. Every story included a stopped clock. Iris began visiting the places from those stories. She told herself she was collecting information about the shop before selling it. But each visit changed the shape of the question. At the old school, a round clock above the assembly room was 7 minutes fast. The head teacher, Mr. Bell, said Elias had changed it after a winter examination many years ago. The children were frightened, he explained. They believed the test would decide their whole future. Elias entered with his ladder, looked at their faces and moved the clock forward. Why forward? Iris asked. Because when the children thought they had less time, they stopped trying to write perfect answers. They wrote honest ones. After the test, Elias gave them the 7 minutes back. Mr. Bell opened a cupboard and showed Iris a box of simple paper stars made by those students. There were no names on them now. The ink had faded, but each star had a small circle cut from its center, like the face of a clock. Did it help them? Iris asked. Some passed. Some did not. All of them survived the day. That was the lesson Elias wanted us to remember. At the river station, Iris found a clock that had not moved for 18 years. It hung in the waiting room above 2 green benches. Its hand showed 5:42. The station master said a young man named Peter had once waited there for his brother. They had argued the night before. Peter planned to apologize when the evening boat arrived. A storm delayed the boat, and the hours became difficult. Elias stopped the waiting room clock. He told Peter that waiting did not have to be punishment, the station master said. They played cards until the boat arrived after midnight. Peter apologized before his brother even stepped onto the dock. Why is the clock still stopped? Peter asked us to leave it. He said it reminded him to speak before the perfect moment. Iris looked through the waiting room window. The river moved steadily beneath the rain. It never saved water for later. It carried each drop toward the sea. At the small clinic on Harbor Road, a white kitchen clock ran 3 minutes slow. Nurse Amara remembered Elias repairing it during a busy spring. We were exhausted, she said. We moved from one room to another without breathing. Elias asked us to sit for 3 minutes. We said we could not. So he made the clock slow and gave us the 3 minutes without asking. That was dishonest, Iris said. Nurse Amara laughed gently. Yes. It was also useful. We drank water. One nurse remembered an important medicine. After that, we began taking 3 quiet minutes at the start of every shift. She poured tea for Iris. Your grandfather was not always right. He was simply willing to make time visible. By late afternoon, Iris had heard enough stories to fill a book. Yet none explained why Elias had refused Anna when she needed him. Good acts did not erase painful ones. Iris understood that clearly. A person could help 100 neighbors and still fail someone at home. She returned to the shop and climbed into the attic. The attic roof was low, and rain spoke softly on the tiles. Old clock cases stood beneath white cloths. Boxes held winter decorations, family dishes, and tools too large for modern repairs. Behind a wooden chest, Iris found a model of Bellweather. The model showed the square, tower, river station, school, bakery, and clock shop. Tiny brass lines connected all the buildings. At the center was a round empty space where the moon garden should be. Iris placed the silver pocket watch inside the space. The model came alive. Tiny clock hands moved across the town. The tower sent a thin silver light toward the school. The school sent another line toward the garden. Then the river station, clinic, and bakery joined it. Every place that held a stopped clock gave something to the empty center. The pocket watch opened. A voice emerged from its small metal case. It was Elias, recorded weekly near the end of his life. "Iris," he said, "if you are hearing this, the garden has chosen to open. I wanted to leave you instructions. Anna told me instructions were my favorite way to avoid an honest conversation. So I will try to be honest." The recording paused. Iris heard her grandfather breathe. "I built the garden because I was afraid of losing people. Every clock I repaired returned to a house I could not enter. Every customer carried a life I could not protect. The garden made me feel useful. Then it made me feel necessary. Those are not the same thing." Iris sat on the attic floor. "Your mother understood before I did. A saved minute has value only when it returns to life. I kept too many. I kept working because I believed the next repair would make me ready to apologize. I was waiting to become a better man before asking her to forgive the man I was." The pocket watch ticked once. Do not wait for perfect words. They are another kind of stopped clock. The recording ended. Iris remained beside the model until the attic grew dark. She wanted to answer Elias, but there was no one to hear her. She wanted to tell him that honesty after death was easier than honesty during life. She also wanted to tell him she understood the fear of imperfect words. For years, Iris had planned to write to him. She had opened blank messages and closed them. She had waited until anger became clear, until grief became smaller, until she could speak without blame. The perfect day had never arrived. Downstairs, one clock rang 6. Another rang a few seconds later. Iris carried the model to the workbench. She removed the pocket watch and examined the empty garden space. 12 narrow lines entered it, matching the 12 glass circles in the tower box. 11 lines shone silver. The 12th remained dark. Someone knocked on the shop door. A boy of about 10 stood outside holding a broken red clock. His grandmother waited under an umbrella. "Mr. Elias said I could bring this when I was ready," the boy said. Iris let them enter. The boy's name was Noah. The clock had belonged to his older sister, who now lived in another country. Before she left, they had argued about a blue bicycle. Noah had thrown the clock from his bedroom window. "I said I did not care if she came back," he whispered. "But I do." Iris opened the case. The glass was cracked and the minute hand was bent. The mechanism could be repaired. "What would you do with 1 minute if it came back?" she asked. Noah thought carefully. "I would tell her the bicycle did not matter. You cannot return to that minute, but you can use this one." His grandmother handed him her phone. Noah recorded a short message. He did not begin again when his voice shook. He sent the imperfect words. The red clock ticked once inside Iris's hands, though she had not repaired it. A tiny white petal appeared beneath its broken glass. Noah did not see it. He was watching the phone, waiting for a reply. "The repair will take 2 days," Iris said. "That is okay." Before they reached the door, the phone sounded. Noah's sister had sent a message back. His smile filled the quiet shop. After they left, Iris placed the white petal beside the dry flower from Elias's workbench. The 2 petals turned toward each other as if moved by a small wind. Iris began to understand that the moon garden did not grow from regret alone. It grew at the moment regret became a choice. That evening, she repaired the red clock. She worked slowly. She replaced the cracked glass, straightened the hand, and cleaned the spring. When the mechanism started, it made a quick, brave sound. Iris set it beside the pocket watch. 1 minute is enough, she said. The shop clocks answered with a soft wave of ticking. At dusk, Iris began comparing the shop clocks. Each stopped or changed time matched a small event in town. 4:15 belonged to Mrs. Lark and her daughter. 6:30 belonged to the lost dog. 9:20 belonged to the summer concert. 12:07 belonged to Iris. She did not know why. At midnight, Thomas arrived with bread and a thermos of tea. Iris had not invited him, but she did not send him away. "If a door opens," she said, "do not touch anything until I tell you. That is a very unusual welcome." At 12:07 the clock stopped. The silver watch began ticking in Iris's pocket. The garden door opened. Thomas stared at the moonlit path. "There is no space for that." "I know. Should we go in?" Iris remembered her grandfather's words. "Take your time." "Yes," she said. Slowly. The garden looked different. More flowers had opened, and the moon appeared lower. Thomas touched nothing. He followed Iris to the fountain. In the clear surface, tiny wheels turned around a dark empty space shaped like the missing glass circle from the tower box. Thomas pointed toward a new path. Was that there yesterday? At the end of the path stood a greenhouse made of old clock glass. Inside, a table held dozens of unfinished watches. Each watch had one missing part. Iris recognized Elias's work. He had repaired the watches almost completely, then stopped. On the wall hung a wooden frame filled with small hooks. One hook held a brass key. It fit the pocket watch. Iris wound it. The watch opened a second hidden cover. Inside was a tiny picture of Anna as a young woman. She stood in front of the tower holding a basket of white flowers. Thomas looked away to give Iris privacy. "My mother left Bellweather when she was 20, Iris said. "She said she wanted a life that did not belong to clocks." "Did she dislike the shop?" "She disliked waiting. Grandfather always believed there would be time later. Later to talk. Later to visit. Later to apologize." Iris looked at the unfinished watches. "Then my mother became ill. There was no later." A clock inside the greenhouse clicked. One unfinished watch began to move. The glass walls filled with a memory. Anna and Elias stood beside the workbench. Anna was older now and tired. Iris was not in the room. "Come with me tomorrow," Anna said. Elias held the silver pocket watch. "The garden is not ready." "I do not need a garden. I need my father. There is still time." Anna shook her head. "You always say that." The memory ended. Iris felt anger rise through her, sharp and awake. "He chose this place," she said. "He chose it instead of her." Thomas did not defend Elias. "That is what the memory shows. I came here to close the shop. I should have done it today." The pocket watch ticked faster. All around them, moonflowers began closing. The garden door looked very far away. Thomas took Iris's hand. "We can leave now." They walked quickly but did not run. The garden path seemed to turn. Yet the silver watch guided them with its sound. Tick to the left. Tick to the right. At last they crossed into the shop. The clocks began again. This time 2 minutes had passed. Iris did not sleep. She packed tools until sunrise. At 8, Mrs. Lark found boxes beside the counter. "You are leaving," she said. "Tomorrow." Mrs. Lark nodded. "Your grandfather feared that." "He should have feared it while my mother was alive." The older woman was quiet for a moment. "Yes." Iris had expected an excuse. The agreement surprised her. Mrs. Lark sat near the stove. Elias loved Anna. He also failed her. Both things can be true. What was the garden? "He never showed it to me. But he asked people for minutes." "Asked them how?" When someone was trapped inside regret, Elias would stop a clock and ask a question. "What would you do with 1 minute if it came back?" Most people gave an answer. Then the clock began again. And the garden kept those minutes. Perhaps. Mrs. Lark took a loaf from her basket. "Your mother knew about it. When she was young, she helped Elias grow the first flowers." Iris stopped packing. "Anna made the garden?" "Part of it. She believed saved minutes should be returned. Elias believed they should be protected. They argued for years. Why did no one tell me? Because it was their secret. And then their silence became everyone else's habit. That was wrong too." After Mrs. Lark left, Iris unpacked one box. She spent the afternoon examining the pocket watch. Under a magnifying glass, she found an unusual wheel behind the face. It moved only when the other clock stopped. The missing space in the mechanism matched the empty glass circle from the tower box. The watch was not simply a key. It was waiting for one final minute. Near sunset, Iris climbed the tower again. Thomas was oiling the main gear. "I thought you were leaving," he said. "I might. But first I need to know why the tower is slow." Together they counted the gear turns. The 11 lost minutes were deliberate. Each month the tower gave 1 minute to the garden. Elias had begun the change 11 months earlier. 12 glass circles, Thomas said. 11 filled. 1 empty. At the end of this month, the tower will give the last minute. What happens then? Iris looked through the tower window at the shop below. "I think the garden becomes complete." "Is that good?" "I do not know." That night, the door did not open at 12:07. It opened at 12:06. Only the tower clock stopped. Every clock in the shop continued ticking. Beyond the door, the moon garden was fading. Flowers leaned toward the ground. Brass clocks had lost their shine. The fountain wheels turned slowly. At the far wall stood a clock Iris had not seen before. Its face showed a sunrise rather than numbers. One hand pointed toward darkness. The other pointed toward light. When Iris approached, the dark hand moved. The garden showed her tomorrow. She saw herself on the morning train with the silver watch in her bag. Behind her, Bellweather's tower stopped completely. The garden door remained open. Silver flowers grew through the shop, across the square, and around the tower. People stood inside old memories, smiling and sleeping. No one moved forward because every lost minute had returned at once. The vision changed. Iris saw another tomorrow. She stood inside the tower and repaired the pendulum. The town clock reached 12:07 and continued. The moon garden folded into darkness. Every flower disappeared, including the one holding Anna's voice. 2 futures. Keep every saved moment and stop the town. Or let time move and lose the garden. There is another way, Elias's remembered voice said among the leaves. Iris turned toward the dry white flower near the handless clock. It opened. Inside was the final memory. Anna sat with Elias in the greenhouse. She was ill, but sunlight warmed her face. Between them stood a young moonflower. "You cannot save me here," Anna said. Elias looked down. "I can save 1 hour. The day by the river. You, Iris, and the pears. We can keep it exactly as it was." "For whom?" "For Iris." Anna touched the flower. "Iris does not need 1 perfect hour repeated forever. She needs the truth. She needs to know we loved her, and that love did not make us wise." Elias began to cry. "Come with me tomorrow," Anna said again. "Let the garden wait." This time Elias answered, "Yes." The memory moved forward. Elias packed a small bag. But before morning, a storm closed the mountain road. Anna became worse during the night. Elias never reached her. He had chosen her at last, but too late. The memory ended with Anna alone in the greenhouse, speaking toward the white flower. "If Iris finds this, tell her 1 minute is enough to choose what comes next." The dry flower released 1 silver petal. It landed in Iris's palm. The empty glass circle from the tower box appeared beside it. Iris understood. The last circle did not need a stolen minute from the town. It needed a chosen minute freely given. She sat beside the fountain and listened to the pocket watch. For 1 full minute she did nothing. She did not repair a clock. She did not pack a box. She did not search for another memory. She allowed anger, grief, and love to share the same quiet space. Then she placed the silver petal inside the empty glass circle. The circle filled with moonlight. Every flower in the garden opened. But the clocks did not stop. They began moving together. The garden door remained open until sunrise. Iris and Thomas walked every path. They did not touch every flower. Some memories belonged to other people. Some moments did not need to be seen again. At the greenhouse, Iris completed 1 unfinished watch. It belonged to Mrs. Lark. At the fountain, Thomas placed his hand over a flower that held a childhood goodbye, then chose not to open it. "What are you keeping?" Iris asked. "Only what helps me return to today," he said. Before dawn, they carried the 12 glass circles to the tower. Iris placed them around the main gear. 11 held minutes the town had given without understanding. The 12th held the minute Iris had chosen. She shortened the pendulum to its correct length. The tower clock moved forward. It passed 12:07. Nothing disappeared. The moon garden became smaller. Its far stone wall moved closer. The greenhouse faded, but the flowers remained along one simple path. The great fountain became a quiet bowl of rainwater. The memories settled into the soil instead of waiting inside every petal. The garden had stopped trying to keep time. It had become a real garden. In the weeks that followed, Iris did not sell the shop. She also did not keep it exactly as Elias had left it. She cleaned the windows and removed half the clocks from the walls. She made space for a long table where people could sit with tea. Thomas repaired the courtyard stones. Mrs. Lark planted mint near the door. The tower clock kept correct time. Once each month, on the night of the full moon, Iris opened the garden for 1 hour. People came without appointments. They left their phones and watches in a wooden box near the shop door. No one was asked to remember anything. No one was asked to forget. They simply chose how to use one unhurried hour. Some people talked. Some wrote letters. Some sat beneath the moonflowers and listened to the fountain. Children watched small moths move between the leaves. Older neighbors shared stories that had never become official history. The silver pocket watch stayed in a glass case above Iris's workbench. It no longer opened the garden. It kept ordinary time, 1 second after another. The first public moon hour was quiet. Iris worried that no one would come. She lit 3 lamps in the shop and opened the courtyard door. For several minutes, only Thomas sat at the long table, cutting slices of bread. Then Mrs. Lark arrived with a pot of mint tea. Nurse Amara came after her. Mr. Bell brought a box of the old paper stars from the school. Noah and his grandmother entered last, carrying the repaired red clock. No one knew what to do. "Do we make a wish?" Noah asked. "No," Iris said. "You can simply be here." They walked into the garden. The moonflowers opened, but no memories appeared. That part of the garden had gone to sleep. The flowers held only moonlight and the clean smell of evening. At first, everyone spoke too much. They explained why they had come, and what they planned to think about. Then the fountain made one soft sound as rainwater crossed its stone edge. Conversation became slower. Mr. Bell folded a new paper star. Nurse Amara removed her shoes and rested her feet on the moss. Mrs. Lark taught Noah the card game she had played while waiting for her daughter to be born. Thomas placed bread on a wooden plate and watched moths circle the lamps. Iris sat near the door. She had expected to feel Elias in every corner. Instead, she noticed the people who were alive. At the end of the hour, the tower bell sounded once. No one hurried to leave. They finished their tea, returned the chairs, and closed the gate together. The next month, more people came. A fisherman repaired a net under the moon. 2 sisters who had not spoken for a year sat on opposite sides of the fountain. They did not solve everything. Before leaving, one sister asked the other if she wanted to walk home. That small question was enough. During winter, snow covered the garden paths. Iris thought the moonflowers would disappear, but they opened beneath clear ice like silver stars. People brought blankets and warm cups. They spent the hour telling simple stories. The first meal they learned to cook, the sound of a parent's laugh, the day they found courage to begin again. In spring, children planted ordinary flowers beside the moonflowers. They chose lavender, white roses, and blue cornflowers. Iris made no rules about where each plant belonged. The garden became less perfect and more alive. Sometimes a visitor asked Iris to stop a clock for them. She always refused. "I can sit with you for 1 minute," she would say. "But the clock will keep moving." Most people discovered that this was enough. The shop changed too. Iris trained Thomas to clean simple mechanisms, though he preferred repairing wooden cases. Noah visited after school and learned how to hold tiny screws without losing them. Mrs. Lark kept a spare key for mornings when Iris traveled to the city museum. On the wall behind the workbench, Iris hung the model of Bellweather. She removed the silver lines that had carried stolen minutes into the garden. In their place, she added small brass paths. They did not point toward the past. They connected the places where people met today. The tower, the school, the station, the clinic, the bakery, the shop. Each place kept its own time, but none stood alone. One autumn evening, a girl brought Iris a broken alarm clock. The girl looked worried. "Can you fix it today?" she asked. "My father says everything must be done quickly." Iris opened the back and examined the small spring. "It can wait until it is right," she said. The girl looked at the hundreds of tools. "How long will that take?" Iris smiled. "One careful afternoon." The girl returned the next day. The alarm clock worked again, but its sound was softer. Iris had also placed a tiny silver flower beneath the glass where only the girl could see it. "What does it mean?" the girl asked. "It means there is still time," Iris said. "But we should not use that sentence as an excuse." Years later, people in Bellweather still told stories about Elias Vale and the clocks he stopped. Some stories were true. Others changed with each telling. Iris did not correct them all. She kept the important truth. Elias had loved time so much that he tried to protect it. Anna had loved life enough to let time move. Iris carried something from both of them. On quiet nights, she could hear the tower through her open window. The bell sounded the hour, then became silent. The silence no longer felt empty. It was simply space before the next sound. Sometimes Iris entered the garden alone. She walked past the mint, touched the rainwater in the fountain, and sat near the oldest moonflower. She never heard her mother's voice again. She did not need to. The words were already part of her. 1 minute is enough to choose what comes next. Above the garden, the moon crossed the sky without hurry. The flowers opened and closed. The tower clock moved forward. Inside the shop, repaired clocks kept many small rhythms, none perfectly the same. And Iris listened without trying to make them agree. "Take your time. There is still time. Let it move." The night continued, gentle and unmeasured, while Bellweather slept. That winter, after many quiet months, Iris began a new habit. Every Sunday evening, she placed one small chair beside the workbench. The chair was not for a customer. It was for anyone who wanted to learn how a clock listened to time. First, only Noah came. He arrived with cold hands, a notebook, and 3 questions he had written before breakfast. "Why do clocks sound different?" he asked. Iris opened a small brass clock and showed him the wheel inside. "Because each clock has its own body," she said. "A large bell has one voice. A small spring has another voice. Time is the same, but the sound can change." Noah wrote this down very slowly. He did not write every word. He wrote only the words he wanted to remember. The next Sunday, Thomas came too. He pretended he was there only to repair a wooden case. But after 10 minutes he put down his sandpaper and watched Iris clean a silver pin with a brush as soft as a feather. "You are too patient," Thomas said. Iris did not look up. "The clock is not asking me to be fast." Thomas thought about this. Then he picked up another brush and worked more slowly. Soon other people came. Mrs. Lark brought tea in a blue pot. Nurse Amara brought a tin of biscuits. The baker sent small rolls with honey on top. Nobody called the meetings a class. A class sounded too serious. They called them quiet hours. During quiet hours, Iris taught simple English words to the children who came from the school. She held up a small gear and said, "Gear." The children repeated, "Gear." She held up a spring and said, "Spring." They repeated, "Spring." Then she used the words in soft sentences. "The gear turns. The spring waits. The bell rings. The hand moves." The children liked the word hand best, because a clock hand was not a hand at all. And this made them laugh without making too much noise. Iris also taught them gentle phrases. "May I try? Please show me again. I do not understand yet. I can wait." She told them that the word yet was a very kind word. If you said, "I do not understand," the sentence felt closed. If you said, "I do not understand yet," a little door stayed open. The children repeated the sentence until it felt natural. "I do not understand yet. I do not understand yet. I do not understand yet." The shop became a place where mistakes were allowed to sit down. A screw could fall on the table. A gear could turn the wrong way. A child could use the wrong word and try again. Nothing terrible happened. One evening, a boy named Peter became angry because the clock he was cleaning would not close. "It hates me," he said. Iris placed her hands flat on the table. "A clock cannot hate you. Then why does it not work?" "Because one part is not ready." Peter pushed the clock away. Iris waited. She did not fix it for him. She did not explain too much. After a quiet minute, Peter pulled the clock back and looked inside again. The spring is turned backward, he said. Yes, Iris answered. He turned it gently. The back cover closed with a tiny click. Peter smiled, but only a little. He was the kind of child who saved his smiles for important moments. It did not hate me, he said. No, Iris said. It was only asking for another look. That sentence stayed in the shop for a long time. When someone was tired or confused or close to giving up, Thomas would say, "Perhaps it is asking for another look." Spring returned softly that year. It came first in the smell of wet stone, then in the green edge of moss beside the fountain, then in the sound of birds starting too early in the morning. The moon garden opened each month, but it no longer felt secret. It felt protected. There is a difference. A secret pushes people away. A protected place invites people to enter with care. Iris made 3 simple rules for the garden. Walk slowly. Speak gently. Leave with the clock moving. She painted the rules on a small wooden board, but she did not place it near the gate. She placed it inside the shop, where people could read it before they went through the door. The board had no gold letters. It had no dramatic picture. It was plain wood with dark blue paint. Under the 3 rules, Iris added one more sentence. Bring only what you are ready to carry. Some people came with heavy memories. They did not talk about them at first. They only sat beside the fountain and listened to the water. Other people came with happy memories and were surprised that happiness could feel heavy too. One night, the 2 sisters returned. Their names were Clara and June. They had walked home together after their first visit, but walking home had not fixed everything. It had only made a beginning. This time they brought a small box. It belonged to our mother, Clara said. Inside the box was a watch with a cracked face. The hands had stopped at 4:30. June looked at Iris. Can you make it stop at that time forever? Iris understood the question beneath the question. 4:30 was the time their mother had died. She closed the box gently. I can repair the watch, Iris said. I cannot make that hour the only hour. June pressed her lips together. Clara touched the side of the box. What happens if it moves? Then it carries that hour with it, Iris said. It does not leave the hour behind. The sisters sat with this answer. It was not an easy answer, but it was a useful one. The next week, Iris repaired the watch. She cleaned the cracked glass but did not replace it. She wanted the watch to remember its own story. When Clara and June returned, the hands were moving again. June held it close to her ear. It sounds smaller than I expected, she said. Most brave things do, Iris answered. From then on, the sisters came every month. Sometimes they spoke. Sometimes they drank tea in silence. Once June helped Clara mend a torn glove. Once Clara helped June carry firewood home. These were not dramatic acts. They were small repairs. Iris began to notice that the town was full of small repairs. At the station, the guard learned the names of 2 children who always watched the evening train. At the bakery, Thomas made a shelf lower so Mrs. Lark could reach the brown sugar without asking. At the clinic, Nurse Amara placed a chair near the window for people who were waiting for difficult news. None of these things stopped time. They made time easier to live inside. One rainy afternoon, Iris received a letter from the city museum. The museum wanted to buy the model of Bellweather for a new exhibition about local inventions. The letter was polite. The offer was generous. The museum promised to place the model in a glass case with a soft light above it. Many people would see it. Children would point at the tiny tower. Visitors would read the story of Elias Vale. Iris read the letter 3 times. Then she folded it and placed it under a paperweight shaped like a moon. That evening she asked Thomas what he thought. Do you want my honest answer? He asked. Yes. Museums are good places, he said. But some things are still working. Iris looked at the model. The brass paths between the buildings caught the lamplight. You think it belongs here. I think it is still doing its job here. The next morning, Iris wrote back to the museum. She thanked them. She said no. She offered to lend them drawings of the model instead. She also sent a small note written in simple English for children. A clock can measure an hour. A person must decide how to use it. The museum printed the note beneath the drawings. Months later, a teacher from the city wrote to Iris and said that one quiet boy had copied the sentence into his schoolbook. Iris kept that letter in the drawer beside her mother's ribbon. Summer came warm and clear. The moonflowers climbed higher than they ever had before. They crossed the greenhouse roof and made silver shadows on the glass. Bees visited them in the early morning, before the flowers closed. One day, Peter, the boy who had once thought the clock hated him, brought Iris a wooden box of his own. He had made it in Thomas's workshop. "It is for broken things," he said. Iris opened it. Inside were small divisions, each lined with cloth. "It is beautiful. It is not perfect." "Good," Iris said. Peter frowned. "Good. Perfect boxes make broken things feel unwelcome." Peter thought about this and decided he liked it. He placed the box on the shelf marked waiting. The shelf marked waiting became important in the shop. Before, broken clocks had waited in drawers or cupboards. Now they waited together in sight. Iris wrote a small card for the shelf. Waiting is not the same as forgotten. People began to notice the card. Some smiled. Some looked away quickly. Some read it twice. Mrs. Lark read it one morning and laughed softly. "You should put that on the town gate," she said. "The town gate is too large," Iris answered. "Then put it where people can find it by accident." So Iris wrote the sentence on 3 small cards. One card went to the bakery, near the jars of honey. One went to the clinic, beside the chair near the window. One went to the school, on the shelf where children left unfinished drawings. The sentence traveled farther than Iris expected. Someone copied it into a birthday card. Someone wrote it at the bottom of a letter. Someone whispered it to a dog that had been missing for 2 days and came home wet and hungry. Waiting is not the same as forgotten. The town did not become perfect. No town does. People still argued about fences, prices, and whose rooster was too loud. Trains still arrived late. Bread still burned. Children still lost gloves and adults still lost patience. But Bellweather learned to pause before it became cruel. That was enough to change many days. In autumn, the tower clock stopped again. This time it happened at noon. The bell lifted itself for 12 clear sounds, but after the 12th sound, the minute hand did not move. People in the square looked up. A few old fears woke inside them. Iris was in the shop, teaching Noah how to polish a brass plate. She heard the silence after the bell and knew at once that something was wrong. Noah looked at her. "Is it him?" He meant Elias. Iris shook her head. "No. This is an ordinary problem." Ordinary problems can still frighten people when they arrive wearing an old shape. Iris and Noah climbed the tower stairs together. Dust moved in the light from the narrow windows. The great clock mechanism waited above them, huge and patient. The problem was not magic. A tooth had broken from one of the old wheels. The wheel had been strong for many years, but metal becomes tired too. Noah let out a breath. "Can we fix it?" "Yes," Iris said. "But not by tonight." At the bottom of the tower, people had gathered. They wanted news. They wanted the clock to move again before sunset. They wanted to know that the past was not returning. Iris stood on the first step and spoke clearly. "The tower clock is broken," she said. "It is not enchanted. It is not dangerous. It needs a new wheel, and the wheel needs time." "How much time?" someone asked. 3 days. The crowd became restless. 3 days felt too long for a town that had once lost time. Then Thomas stepped forward. "We can use our own clocks for 3 days." Mrs. Lark lifted her small watch. "Mine is 5 minutes fast, but it has a good heart." Someone laughed. Nurse Amara said, "The clinic clock works." The station guard said, "The station clock works unless the train is late, and the train is always late, so perhaps it is honest." More people laughed. The fear loosened. For 3 days, Bellweather lived without the tower clock. People asked one another the time. Children listened for meal bells. The baker opened when the bread was ready, not when the minute hand pointed to 6. On the 3rd evening, Iris, Noah, and Thomas carried the new wheel up the tower stairs. Iris placed it carefully. Noah held the lamp. Thomas held his breath. The mechanism moved. The minute hand stepped forward. Below them, the bell sounded once. Not because it was the hour, because the clock was alive again. The town cheered. Then, because Bellweather was still Bellweather, everyone checked their own watches to see if the tower was correct. It was correct enough. That night, Iris entered the moon garden and sat beside the fountain. She thought about the 3 days without the tower. The town had been nervous, but it had not fallen apart. People had carried time together. The garden seemed to understand. The moonflowers opened slowly, one by one, like small white clocks with no numbers. Iris closed her eyes. She listened. The water moved. The leaves moved. The town moved. And inside her, grief moved too. It did not vanish. It did not become simple. It moved, and because it moved, it did not trap her. Late that night, Noah found Iris in the shop. He should have been home, but he had come to return the tower key. "May I ask one more question?" he said. "You may ask one more tonight. Do you ever want to stop time again?" Iris looked at the clocks around her. Some ticked quickly. Some ticked slowly. One old clock near the door ticked with a small uneven sound, as if it was walking on tired feet. "Yes," she said. Noah looked surprised. Iris continued. "Sometimes I want a good day to stay. Sometimes I want a hard day to finish before it begins. Sometimes I miss my mother and want one more morning in the kitchen with her. But you do not stop it." "No." "Why?" Iris picked up a tiny screw and placed it in a wooden tray. "Because wanting something is not the same as choosing it." Noah nodded slowly. He wrote the sentence in his notebook. Wanting something is not the same as choosing it. He closed the notebook and went home under the moon. Years moved after that, as years do. They did not run. They did not ask permission. They arrived quietly, carrying weather, birthdays, repairs, and goodbyes. Noah grew taller. Peter became Thomas's apprentice. Mrs. Lark's hair turned completely white, and she said this was useful because moonlight now matched her. Nurse Amara retired from the clinic but still visited the garden when the moon was full. Iris became older too. The silver at her temples spread like frost on a window. Her hands were still steady, but she began to use a larger lamp when working with small parts. One evening, a young woman entered the shop with a baby asleep against her shoulder. Iris knew the woman at once. She was the girl with the repaired alarm clock, the one with the tiny silver flower beneath the glass. "Do you remember this?" the woman asked. She placed the alarm clock on the counter. It was worn now, but it still worked. The small silver flower was still there. "I remember," Iris said. "I used it every morning when I studied in the city," the woman said. "Then I used it when I started work. Now I want it in my daughter's room." The baby slept through every tick. Iris opened the clock and cleaned it while the woman waited. The repair was simple. A little dust. A little oil. A spring that needed kindness. When Iris finished, the alarm sound was still soft. "There," she said. "Ready for another life." The woman touched the tiny flower under the glass. "You told me there was still time." "Yes." "You were right." Iris smiled. "I hoped I was." After the woman left, Iris stood in the quiet shop and felt something gentle settle inside her. A sentence spoken years ago had kept moving. It had crossed rooms she had never entered. It had traveled with someone into a new life. This is what time could do when it was allowed to move. It could carry kindness forward. That night, before closing the shop, Iris wound every clock. She did it slowly. The round clock near the door. The tall clock by the window. The little travel clock on the shelf. The school clock waiting for a new hand. The repaired alarm clock that would be collected in the morning. Each clock answered in its own voice. Tick, tick, tick. Not together. Not perfectly. Still somehow in peace. Iris turned down the lamp and opened the back door. The moon garden waited beyond it, silver and blue and green. She did not enter at once. She stood on the threshold and breathed. Behind her, the shop was full of measured time. Before her, the garden was full of living time. Above her, the moon moved without asking to be seen. She stepped outside. The path was cool beneath her shoes. Mint brushed her skirt. Somewhere near the fountain, a night insect sang one small note again and again, as if practicing a word. Iris sat on the bench where she had once waited for answers from the past. Now she did not wait for answers. She rested. The town slept around her. The tower kept time. The river carried moonlight away and brought more moonlight in its place. The flowers opened, closed, and opened again. Iris placed one hand over her heart. It was steady. It was not a clock, but it knew how to continue. For a long while she said nothing. Then very softly she spoke the words she had learned to trust. Take your time. There is still time. Let it move. The night received the words and did not answer. Did something better. It continued.
you.